No, do shave it off, she pleaded. The rancher stood still, yet he kept going. It moved slowly across the open plains, brushing against long rows of metal fencing, feeding stations, and tall processing towers. The land was wide and quiet, broken only by the distant calls of alien herd creatures and the low hum of human machines. Elia's ward stood near the central platform of the ranch, boots planted firmly in the red soil. He was a tall man, broad-shouldered, with a weathered face shaped by years under foreign suns. He had worked on frontier worlds most of his life. Ranching was not glamorous, but it was honest, necessary. Humans had learned early that the galaxy survived on balance. Every species, every planet, every resource had a role. On Kestrel 9, that role was biological management. Elias checked the data pad in his hand. The schedule was tight today. Processing subject confirmed, said a calm mechanical voice from the overhead system. Species classification, managed fauna, type E. Elias nodded to himself. Same as always. The gates opened with a slow hiss, and the subject was guided forward by soft field restraints. She walked on two legs much like a human, though her posture was more fluid, her movements careful and measured. She did not look like livestock. That thought crossed Elias' mind as it always did, but he pushed it aside. Appearances meant nothing out here. The galaxy was full of creatures that looked intelligent. She had smooth, pale blue skin and dark eyes that reflected the light strangely, like polished stone. From the top of her head flowed a long, silver-black crest of fine strands, shimmering slightly as it moved. Elias glanced at the crest. That was the part scheduled for removal. The crest was known to gather airborne spores and foreign bacteria. Regulations required it to be trimmed before transport to prevent ecological spread. Simple, clean, necessary. At least that was what the manual said. The subject stopped walking. The restraint field tightened gently around her arms, but she did not struggle. Instead, she lifted her head and looked directly at Elias. Her eyes were wide. Fear was something Elias recognized easily. He had seen it in animals, colonists, even soldiers, but this was different. She spoke. "No," she said, her voice shaking but clear. "Please don't do this." Elias froze. The system did not register speech. It did not pause, but Elias did. That was not supposed to happen. Subject is nonverbal, the manual had said. Communication responses are reflexive only. Yet she was standing there, speaking perfect trade standard. Elias raised one hand, signaling the automated arm to slow. The machine obeyed. "What did you say?" Elias asked, his voice low. She swallowed. Her hands trembled slightly inside the field. "Don't shave it off," she pleaded. "Please, you don't understand." Elias felt a strange tightening in his chest. He had followed protocol his whole life. Protocol kept people alive. Protocol kept worlds from collapsing. But protocol had never spoken back to him before. "You're classified as managed fauna," Elias said carefully. "This procedure is required." Her breathing grew faster. "That crest," she said, nodding toward her head, "it is not decoration. It is not waste. It is memory." Elias frowned. "Memory?" he repeated. "Yes," she said quickly. "Our history, our families, our songs, they live there. Cutting it destroys them." The words hit him harder than he expected. Elias looked at the machine arm hovering nearby. The blade was smooth, precise, designed to remove the crest cleanly without pain. Without pain, the system claimed. He had trusted those claims for years. "That's not possible," Elias said, more to himself than to her. "If you were sentient, this would have been caught long ago." She let out a soft, broken sound that might have been a laugh. "We tried," she said. "Long ago, we spoke. We warned, but your records were already written." A warning tone sounded from the system. "Processing delay detected," the voice announced. "Please proceed." Elias did not move. He studied her face. The fear there was real, not animal panic, not instinct, understanding. "How do you know our language?" Elias asked. She hesitated, then answered, "Because your people taught it to us. before we were forgotten." That sentence settled into the air like dust after a storm. Elias felt sweat on his palms. He was not a politician. He was not a scientist. He was a rancher. His job was simple: follow the book, keep the system running. But suddenly the book felt very thin. "I can't just stop," Elias said slowly. "If I do, alarms trigger, inspections follow." She leaned forward as much as the field allowed. "Then stand still," she said, "just long enough to see." "To see what?" She closed her eyes. The crest shimmered faintly. For a moment nothing happened. Then Elias' data pad vibrated violently. Readings flooded the screen, energy spikes, biosignals, patterns he had never seen before. The air around the platform seemed to hum like a distant choir. "What is that?" Elias whispered. "Our voices," she said softly. "Waking." Alarms blared across the ranch. Red lights flashed from the towers. The ground vibrated under Elias' boots as systems across Kestrel 9 reacted. "Warning," the automated voice said, no longer calm. "Unidentified bionetwork detected. Source unknown." Elias stepped back. This was bad, very bad. The machine arm moved again, responding to the emergency protocol. If the system could not identify a threat, it neutralized it. "No," Elias shouted. He reached out and slammed his hand against the manual override panel. Sparks flew. The arm froze mid-motion. Silence fell, broken only by distant alarms. Elias stood there, heart pounding. He had just damaged registered equipment. That alone could end his career. But the thought of that blade touching her crest made his stomach twist. Security drones lifted from their docks across the ranch. He could hear them approaching. She looked at him, hope flickering in her eyes. "You stopped," she said. "You listened." "I don't know what I'm doing," Elias replied honestly. "That is how it begins," she said. "What's your name?" Elias asked. "Sarathel," she answered, "keeper of the third lineage." Elias let out a slow breath. "I'm Elias Ward," he said. "And I think someone made a terrible mistake." The drones arrived, hovering around the platform. "Rancher Ward," a control voice crackled over the comms. "Explain the delay." Elias straightened his back. For the first time in years, he did not reach for the manual. "There's something you need to see," he said. "All of you." He looked at Sarathel one more time. "I can't promise I'll fix this," he said quietly. "But I won't pretend I didn't hear you." She nodded, her eyes shining. "That is enough," she said, "for now." Far above Kestrel 9, unseen ships began adjusting their course, drawn by a signal that should never have existed. And on a dusty ranch at the edge of human space, a man who had always followed the rules stood still. Elias Ward stood frozen, eyes fixed on Sarathel, whose crest still shimmered softly in the dim light of the platform. The hum from the unknown bionetwork lingered in the air, like a faint heartbeat beneath the machinery. He tried to calm his racing thoughts. Years of following protocol, of obeying manuals without question, had trained him to act quickly in emergencies. Yet now, every step felt uncertain. Every decision carried weight he had never imagined. Sarathel stepped closer, though the restraint field still kept her safely in place. "You do not understand what you are facing," she said. Her voice was calm, almost soothing, but it carried urgency. "This is not a malfunction. This is a warning." Elias shook his head. "A warning? From you?" He glanced at the data pad, which now displayed dozens of irregular energy patterns. The signals were unlike anything he had ever encountered. "These readings, they're huge. What are they?" "They are the memories of my people," Sarathel explained. "The crest carries them. Every song, every story, every discovery. It was meant to be kept to guide us. But when your ancestors classified us as managed fauna, our history was nearly erased. Now it is waking." Elias rubbed his temples. "Managed fauna. You're saying someone made a mistake, centuries ago?" "Yes," she said. Her eyes met his, steady and unwavering. "A mistake that continues to ripple through time. We were always alive, always thinking, always learning, but your records treated us as animals." That is why you were instructed to cut the crest. Elias felt a tight knot form in his chest. He had spent his life following rules, assuming the galaxy was carefully organized. He had never considered that the rules themselves could be wrong. Yet here she was, a living being speaking truth, and the system's alarms were proof that her words were real. He looked at the mechanical arm hovering above, still frozen. It would be dangerous to release the restraint now. The unknown biosignals were growing stronger. If the system responded automatically, it could destroy the crest before he fully understood it. Elias swallowed. "We need to stop this before anyone else interferes," he said. He reached for the comm panel. "Control, cancel all automated processes immediately. Do not engage the subject." A voice responded instantly. "Acknowledged, all processes halted, awaiting manual instruction." Sarathel tilted her head slightly. "You are listening, that is unusual for humans." Elias allowed himself a small, bitter smile. "I'm learning." The wind blew stronger now, stirring the dust in swirls around the platform. It carried a strange, metallic tang like the air itself was changing. The biosignals pulsed, almost rhythmically in the hum beneath their feet. "What happens if we do nothing?" Elias asked. "If we leave the crest alone, will the signals stop?" "No," Sarathel said firmly. "They will grow. The more people come near, the stronger they become. Your machines, your settlements, even your communications networks, they are connected. And they will all carry our awakening farther than you can imagine." Elias' mind raced. "You're saying if we ignore this, the entire planet could be affected?" "Yes," she said, "and possibly more. Our signal can reach beyond Kestrel 9, other species, other systems. You could see consequences that no manual covers." The rancher closed his eyes for a moment. He had worked hard to keep everything in balance, to maintain the life and order on this planet. But he had never considered that his efforts were built on an oversight. A historical mistake, and now that mistake was alive and aware. He opened his eyes. "Then we have to understand it, not fight it, not cut it down. We must study it carefully." Sarathel nodded, relief flickering across her features. "Yes, that is the only path forward. Humans, you have the capacity to understand without destroying." For a moment, the words felt like a balm. Elias had always believed humans could survive through cunning or strength. But now he realized that understanding, compassion, intelligence, willingness to pause was an even greater strength. He turned back to the data pad. The signals were fluctuating wildly, now forming patterns that seemed almost intentional. "It's like it's trying to communicate," he said. "But in what language, and why now?" "Because your species is capable of hearing," Sarathel replied, "and because we were almost lost. If our history were erased completely, your world would never know the truths that survive only in memory." Elias glanced at the automated arm again. He had thought it was a tool, a device meant to perform precise tasks without question. But now, in the shadow of the awakening crest, the arm seemed insignificant, like a small instrument beside the vastness of a living network. A soft vibration ran through the platform. The signals intensified, as if sensing his thoughts. Elias took a careful step closer to Sarathel, feeling the hum in his bones. "What are they saying?" he asked. "They are asking to be remembered," she said. "To be preserved, to be acknowledged. That is all they ask. That is all that must happen." Elias nodded slowly. His hands clenched around the edges of the control panel. For years he had measured risks, calculated probabilities, followed guidelines. But this was something beyond calculations, beyond control. He took a deep breath. "Then we don't cut it, we protect it." "No matter what," Sarathel's eyes glimmered. "You understand." He glanced toward the horizon. The settlements that dotted the plains of Kestrel 9 were empty for now. Most humans were off-world or in their enclosed habitats, unaware of the awakening taking place. But the signs of what could come were already moving outward. Every device, every sensor, every drone was connected. Every human, even unknowingly, could spread the signal further. "We have to warn them," Elias said. "Everyone on the planet needs to know. If this reaches the wrong people before they understand it, it could trigger panic." Sarathel nodded. "Yes, but you have something humans have always had, courage to act even when rules are unclear. The rest will follow if they see your example." Elias hesitated. "And if they do, if they react with fear, we could be blamed or worse." "They will follow because they will see truth," she said simply. "The universe responds to courage that is guided by reason, not by fear." The words echoed in Elias' mind. For the first time, he realized that humanity's reputation across the stars could be shaped not only by conquest or colonization, but by the choices they made in moments like this. The moment to pause, the moment to think, the moment to protect life, even when it was inconvenient, even when it broke every rule he had ever learned. A vibration shook the platform again, stronger this time. The biosignals were spreading, radiating outward. Elias watched the displays as the sensors registered new nodes activating far from the platform, nodes he had not installed and could not control. "They're multiplying," he said, "faster than I can track." "They are waking," Sarathel said. "And they will not stop until their stories are remembered." Elias closed his eyes. He could feel the responsibility pressing down on him, heavier than any storm he had endured on Kestrel 9. He could have ignored her, followed protocol, cut the crest, maintained order. But then the truth would be lost forever, and humanity would bear the mark of ignorance. He opened his eyes, determination settling in his bones. "I'll do it," he said. "Whatever it takes. No one touches this crest, not until we understand it." Sarathel smiled, a soft, almost fragile curve of her lips. "Then we can begin." They moved to the central data terminal where Elias started downloading the signals, mapping the patterns, and attempting to decode the language embedded in the bionetwork. The process was slow. Every step required careful attention. Every misstep could trigger alarms or damage the crest. Hours passed. Dust shifted across the plains. Machines hummed softly. Yet above all, there was the subtle, living pulse of the awakening signal. A quiet, persistent reminder that life, intelligence, and history were never truly bound by the limits humans imagined. As night fell on Kestrel 9, the twin moons casting pale light over the red plains, Elias finally leaned back. The first fragments of understanding had emerged from the data. Notes of history, songs, memories. Sarathel watched him, her eyes reflecting the moon's light. "This is only the beginning," she said. "They will continue to awaken, and soon the galaxy will know." Elias nodded, exhausted but resolute. "Then we need to be ready. Humanity has to be ready." Far above, in orbit, small, silent observers had begun shifting course toward Kestrel 9. Their sensors were picking up the same signals. They did not yet know what they had discovered, only that something remarkable was happening on the edge of human space. And below, on the dusty plains of a remote world, a human rancher had chosen to listen. He had chosen to protect. He had chosen to understand. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's rules were being rewritten. Not by power, not by force, but by courage, awareness, and the willingness to see life in all its forms. And in that quiet, monumental choice, Elias realized one truth. Humanity had always had the potential to surprise the stars. The first light of Kestrel 9's twin suns stretched across the red plains, painting long shadows over the quiet ranch. Elias Ward had barely slept. His mind swirled with thoughts of Sarathel's crest and the awakening biosignals spreading through the planet. Even in the solitude of the frontier, the implications were too vast to ignore. He walked to the edge of the main platform, boots sinking slightly into the soft red dust, and scanned the horizon. The herd creatures grazed cautiously in the distance, their alien shapes blending with the plains. All seemed calm, yet Elias knew calm was temporary. Once the wider galaxy noticed the signals, they would react, curious, cautious, or hostile. Sarathel followed silently. Her crest shimmered faintly, responding to the vibrations in the ground. She had been quiet since the night before, allowing Elias to plan their next move. Her presence reminded him that the stakes were higher than he had ever faced. He was no longer merely a rancher. "We need to shut down the automated systems across the ranch," Elias said finally. "If the awakening spreads, they could misinterpret it as a biological threat and react violently." Sarathel nodded. "Yes, but be careful. The signals are sensitive. Even small disturbances can trigger defensive responses in the network." Elias frowned. "Defensive responses." "Think of it as self-preservation," she explained. "The crest is not just biological, it is intelligent. It reacts when threatened. If your machines approach recklessly, it may attempt to defend itself." The realization sank into Elias like a weight. The very thing humans had always considered inert, predictable, and manageable was alive, aware, and capable of protecting itself. He reached the control room and began manually shutting down processing units, one by one. Each station required careful intervention. The automated arms, designed to operate endlessly without human input, now seemed foreign, alien even, in the presence of Sarathel's awakening crest. Outside, a soft hum began rising again, stronger than the night before. Elias felt it in his chest, a vibration that resonated with every bone. The biosignals were growing exponentially. They weren't just local, they were expanding. "Elias," Sarathel said, placing a hand lightly on his shoulder, "look at the patterns. They are forming nodes. Connections. It is communicating with itself." He turned to the display screens. The data flowed like a web, thousands of lines weaving together across the entire planet. Each node pulsed with light, almost as if the crest were awakening countless other biological connections. This is bigger than I imagined," Elias muttered. "We might be the first humans to witness something like this outside of history logs." Sarathel's eyes glimmered. "Not just outside history, you are witnessing survival. The legacy of my people, preserved despite the neglect of records, bureaucracy, and fear. They are rising again." Elias felt a mix of awe and fear. Humanity had always prided itself on exploration, on conquering challenges with technology and strength. Yet here on a remote world, a rancher's careful choice, pausing, listening, and protecting, was making a difference far beyond what he could see. The comm system beeped urgently. A message from the Colony Council blinked across the screen. "Rancher Ward," the voice said, clipped and formal. "We have detected unusual biosignals originating from your sector. Identify and neutralize immediately. Threat assessment pending. Failure to comply may result in intervention." Elias exhaled slowly. "They're here," he muttered. Sarathel stepped forward. "Do not respond in panic. Humans have a way of frightening other species with rash decisions. Use your understanding, your restraint. That is your advantage." He nodded. "I'll try." Elias keyed the comm. "This is Rancher Ward. The subject in question is not a threat. The signals you detect are part of a living archive. They require careful observation, not destruction." Silence followed. Then the voice returned, sharper. "Rancher Ward, orders are clear. Biosafety protocol requires neutralization of unidentified biosignals. We are en route to enforce compliance." Elias' jaw tightened. The council would send ships, drones, maybe even armed teams. They would not understand that this was not a threat but a form of life that demanded respect. He turned to Sarathel. "We don't have much time. They'll arrive soon." Her crest shimmered. "Then we must act quickly. Begin translating the signals. They need to see the intelligence before they react." Over the next hours, Elias and Sarathel worked feverishly. He had some knowledge of decoding alien patterns, basic skills learned on other frontier worlds. Sarathel guided him, explaining how the bionetwork stored history, culture, and emotion in forms humans could gradually interpret. They began with fragments, songs, simple visual representations, stories of survival and migration. Elias felt a thrill as he decoded the first sequences. He realized the intelligence of the crest was staggering, far beyond any AI humans had ever developed. "This is incredible," he whispered. "It's not just memory, it's experience. Entire civilizations preserved in biology." Sarathel nodded. "Exactly, and now you understand why cutting it would have been catastrophic." A distant hum grew louder. Elias glanced toward the horizon. Ships were descending, small reconnaissance vessels at first. Their sensors flared, detecting the awakening. He took a deep breath. "We have to show them, quickly." Working together, they projected the decoded sequences to the sky. Using portable hollow projectors, the images and sounds of Sarathel's species, its history, music, and stories, floated in shimmering light above the plains. The ship slowed, their sensors flickering as they scanned the projection. Elias held his breath. This was his humanity moment. Not a battle, not a conquest, not a war, but a demonstration of understanding, courage, and respect. Then a transmission came through. It was the council, now more curious than angry. "Rancher Ward," the voice said more carefully this time, "explain what we are observing." Elias spoke slowly, choosing each word. "You see living intelligence, not threat, not managed fauna. This species has survived against record-keeping errors for centuries. Their memories, history, and knowledge are contained in the crest. If we harm it, we erase them permanently." Silence followed again. Then faintly, Sarathel whispered, "They are listening." Elias continued, "We request a pause in all enforcement. Allow us to demonstrate the intelligence. Allow humanity to do what it does best, understand and protect life when it matters." The ships hovered. One small vessel opened a viewport, showing a human observer staring at the holographic history. His eyes widened as he realized the depth of what they were witnessing. Elias felt a surge of hope. Humanity was known for strength, speed, and ingenuity, but rarely for patience and understanding. Today, he was showing them that restraint could be more powerful than orders. Hours passed. The projection continued, gradually unraveling the complex network of memories in the crest. Every song, every story, every survival lesson became visible to humans for the first time. The observers recorded, transmitted, and began sharing with the wider council. Sarathel's eyes were bright with tears. "You have done more than save a life," she said softly. "You have saved history." Elias nodded. "History belongs to all who remember it, not just to the record keepers." As the sun began to set, painting the plains in fiery gold and crimson, the first ships began to depart. They had learned, and perhaps more importantly, they had stopped to see. Elias turned to Sarathel. "This is only the beginning," he said. "Yes," she replied, "but beginnings are where change starts. You have shown what humanity can do when it listens, when it acts with understanding. Others will see, and the galaxy will notice." Elias felt a quiet pride. He had no idea how far-reaching the consequences would be. Entire civilizations, systems, even the council itself would now be aware that humans could act differently, courageous, careful, and wise beyond expectation. The night air was calm again. Dust swirled softly across the plains. The herd creatures grazed peacefully. And in the distance, the hum of awakened memories pulsed like a heartbeat, a reminder that life was never truly silent, never truly bound by the limitations humans imposed. Elias looked at Sarathel one last time. "Tomorrow," he said, "we begin the translation in full. Every memory, every story, humanity will see the truth." Sarathel's crest shimmered brightly, almost in celebration. "Yes, tomorrow," she said, "and the galaxy will learn that sometimes the bravest act is to pause, to listen, and to protect." Elias smiled. For the first time in his life, he understood that being a rancher was more than tending animals and following protocol. Today, He had protected life, preserved history, and shown that humanity could rise above rules when the truth demanded it. And as the twin moons of Kestrel 9 rose in the night sky, the awakening network pulsed steadily, a living testament to the courage of one human who had dared to stop and listen. The morning light stretched over Kestrel 9, painting the plains in soft gold. Elias Ward had already begun another long day. He moved between the control panels, hollow projectors, and observation decks, coordinating the translation of the awakening biosignals with Sarathel at his side. The Crest's network had grown even more complex overnight, connecting to smaller nodes across the planet like roots spreading underground. Elias rubbed his forehead. The data streams were overwhelming. Thousands of new patterns emerged every hour. Some were simple, songs, stories of migration, warnings about predators. But others were sophisticated, almost like engineering schematics or philosophical notes. He couldn't imagine a human mind, or even an AI, having the ability to contain so much knowledge in one living organism. Sarathel watched him carefully. "You are tired," she said softly. "Remember, understanding requires patience, not speed." "I know," Elias replied, though he knew he couldn't stop. Every moment wasted was a risk. News of the awakening had already spread to orbiting satellites, and distant colonies had begun redirecting ships to investigate. Some were curious, some wary. Not everyone understood restraint. He tapped a few keys and sent a secure transmission to the Colony Council. The message included initial decoded sequences and an explanation. The subject is intelligent. The signals are not hazardous. Interference may cause permanent loss. Minutes later, a response arrived. Elias opened it cautiously. "Rancher Ward, the Council acknowledges your report. However, biosafety protocols must still be followed. A team will arrive for verification. Any deviation may result in enforcement action." He exhaled sharply. Sarathel placed a hand on his shoulder. "You see, they are cautious. That is wise, but they also watch for intent." "They will see yours is pure." Elias nodded. "We have to show them, not just tell them, show them." By mid-morning, the first verification fleet arrived. Small ships hovered above the plains, sensors scanning every inch. Elias activated the hollow projection system, lifting images of Sarathel's people into the sky. The projections were vast, showing migrations, songs, tools, and symbols. Streams of light connected the nodes like a living web. One ship transmitted a live feed back to the council. Elias watched as human and alien observers stared at the display. Some reached for instruments to measure threats. Others simply watched, stunned. "This is remarkable," one voice crackled over the comm. "We've never seen anything like it. This is alive." "Yes," Sarathel whispered, "and it remembers." Elias felt a quiet pride. Humanity had always relied on power and speed to survive, but here, patience, observation, and care were stronger tools. The first ship hovered closer. A hatch opened and a delegation of council observers beamed down. They were cautious, scanning Elias and Sarathel, weapons holstered but eyes alert. Elias stepped forward. "Welcome," he said calmly. "What you see is not a threat. It is intelligence, living history preserved in the crest. Any interference could destroy centuries of knowledge." One observer, a human officer named Marin Kale, frowned. "Rancher Ward, are you suggesting we let this organism dictate our actions?" "I'm suggesting," Elias replied evenly, "that we stop and think before acting. This network has survived despite neglect. It is intelligent, aware, and capable of communicating. It is not a threat if treated with respect." The officer's gaze shifted to Sarathel, who nodded politely. "The network contains the history of our species," she explained. "It has survived wars, mistakes, and the ignorance of records. Now it is waking, and we hope humanity can understand without harming it." A tense silence followed. Elias could feel the weight of their judgment. These were trained humans and diplomats, used to following rules, relying on data and protocols. They were not accustomed to moral courage or restraint as decisive tools. Finally, the officer exhaled. Very well, we will observe, but understand if anything goes wrong, any contamination, any risk, you will be held accountable. Elias nodded. Understood, but the greatest risk is to act without understanding. The observers moved carefully through the projection field, marveling at the connections. Some took notes, others scanned nodes with instruments. All of them, consciously or not, were learning a new lesson. Strength was not always measured in weapons, numbers, or control. Sometimes strength was knowing when to pause and protect. Over the next few hours, Elias and Sarathel guided the council observers through the network. They showed the songs, the stories, and the memories stored in the crest. Each node was a lesson, each pattern a tale of survival. By noon, the observers were silent, staring at the displays, absorbing the full scope of what they had been presented. Sarathel turned to Elias. "They understand more than you think," she said softly. He nodded. "I hope so. Because this is only the beginning." The sun climbed higher, casting short shadows over the plains. Suddenly, a calm alert sounded from orbit. Additional ships had arrived, alien vessels from nearby systems, drawn by the biosignals. Their designs were unfamiliar, sleek and angular, sensors glowing. Elias' pulse quickened. The awakening network had attracted more than human attention. "Looks like curiosity has its consequences," he muttered. Sarathel's crest shimmered. "Not consequences, opportunity. Others will see that humans can act differently." The alien ships hovered, scanning the network from orbit. One vessel projected a soft light downward, probing the signals without interference. Elias could feel the hum intensifying. The network was aware of them, but it did not react aggressively. It seemed to recognize the restraint humans had shown. Elias realized something extraordinary. Humanity, through Elias' choice to stop and listen, was being observed, not as conquerors, not as invaders, but as a species capable of moral judgment and understanding. This was the essence of HFY, humans earning respect through wisdom, courage, and careful action, not through violence or force. He glanced at the hollow projection. Thousands of nodes glowed brightly, interconnected. "It's learning from us," he said. "Yes," Sarathel replied. "And it is judging humans. It sees that some of you can rise above protocol when life is at stake. That is rare, that is valuable." The human observers whispered among themselves. "Could this change how we are seen in the galaxy?" one asked. Elias smiled faintly. "It already is." By late afternoon, a council representative approached Elias directly. "Rancher Ward," she said carefully, "your decision to protect this network against orders, against protocol, has demonstrated ingenuity, morality, strength beyond what our records anticipated. We may need to reconsider regulations for frontier worlds." Elias' eyes widened slightly. "You're saying humanity could lead by example?" "Perhaps," she said. "Not by force, but by understanding, by listening, by choosing carefully when to act." He nodded. Sarathel's eyes met his, shining with quiet pride. "Do you see now?" she asked. "Your species has a capacity others rarely expect. You can be the guardians, the protectors, the ones who choose life over convenience." Elias felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He had doubted himself when the alarms first sounded. He had worried about breaking protocol, about being blamed. But now, he realized that courage was not about defiance. It was about choosing the right action when faced with uncertainty. The alien vessels continued to hover, observing. Their captains were silent, perhaps communicating among themselves, perhaps reevaluating what they thought they knew about humans. Elias had a feeling they would remember this day for a long time. As the twin moons began their ascent, casting soft silver light over the red plains, Elias stood beside Sarathel. The network pulsed gently, a heartbeat of memory, survival, and awakening. Humanity had acted differently, and the galaxy had noticed. Elias finally spoke, his voice quiet but firm. Tomorrow we expand the translation. We reach every node. The entire story will be visible. Humans will see it. Aliens will see it. And no one will be able to ignore the truth. Sarathal's crest shimmered brightly, reflecting the twin moons. And in doing so, she said, you will teach the galaxy a lesson, that true strength is not in dominance, but in understanding, restraint, and courage to protect what matters. Elias smiled, looking out across the plains, toward the horizon where human and alien ships alike lingered. Then let's begin. For the first time, Kestrel 9 was no longer just a frontier ranch. It was a classroom, a gallery, and a monument to the potential of humanity. The awakening network hummed steadily, and the galaxy, watching from afar, began to see humans in a new light. Not as conquerors, but as a species capable of greatness through wisdom and care. And in that moment, Elias understood something simple but profound. The universe had underestimated humans, and now humanity was ready to show its true strength. The red plains of Kestrel 9 were quiet now, but the air vibrated with a subtle, living pulse. Elias Ward stood on the central platform, the twin moons rising behind him. For days, he and Sarathal had worked tirelessly, translating the bionetwork of the crest, projecting its memories, stories, and songs into the sky for humans and alien observers alike. Now, as the last sequences streamed across the hollow projection, Elias finally allowed himself to pause. The network had grown beyond anything he could have imagined. Nodes spread across the planet, each one a story, a memory, a song preserved from generations long forgotten. Humanity had witnessed it all. Other species had witnessed it all. He looked at Sarathal. Her crest shimmered brightly, flowing with light as though alive. She had guided him, helped him decode patterns far too complex for a single mind, yet always left him to make the decisions. "We've done it," she said softly. "Every memory, every story, every lesson." Elias nodded, exhaustion mixing with pride. "We have, and they've seen it." Humans, aliens, everyone watching. In orbit, ships from distant systems had gathered to observe. Some remained cautious, some curious, and others clearly impressed. Even the Human Council, previously wary and rigid in protocol, had begun to understand. Humanity had acted differently, wisely, patiently, and with restraint, and the galaxy had taken notice. A communication pinged from the largest human ship. Elias tapped the control panel, opening the secure line. "Rancher Ward," the council representative said, voice measured but warm. "Your actions have been reviewed. You have demonstrated exceptional judgment, courage, and foresight. The Council hereby authorizes the preservation of the network and recommends that Kestrel 9 serve as a model for handling similar discoveries." Elias exhaled. "So, they understand." "They do," the representative confirmed. "And more than that, they respect humanity's capacity to act thoughtfully." Sarathal smiled faintly. "You see, Elias, this is how your species earns trust, not by force, not by orders, but by understanding." The network pulsed beneath them, a soft, steady heartbeat of knowledge. Elias felt it through the soles of his boots. Each node glimmered with memory, reflecting a life that had survived centuries of neglect and misunderstanding. Every node carried lessons that could guide humanity, and perhaps the galaxy, for generations to come. "Will it ever stop?" Elias asked. Sarathal shook her head. "It is alive. It will continue to grow, to learn, to preserve. But now humans will guide it. You will protect it, share its knowledge responsibly. And in doing so, you will teach the galaxy the value of patience and respect." Elias felt a quiet pride settle over him. He had always thought of himself as a simple rancher, tending animals and managing a frontier world. But today, he had seen something extraordinary. Humanity had not only witnessed life beyond its understanding, but had chosen to protect it. That choice, he realized, was more powerful than any weapon, any fleet, or any technology. The first observers from the alien fleets approached him in person for the first time. Their forms were strange, sleek, and angular, but their curiosity was unmistakable. They spoke slowly through translators, asking questions about the network, the species, and the humans who had protected it. Elias answered carefully, explaining the methods they had used to translate the signals, the care taken to avoid harm, and the importance of understanding life before judging it. One of the alien representatives, taller than Elias with skin like polished bronze, inclined its head. "Your species acts differently than we expected. You could have destroyed it or mismanaged it. Instead, you listened, you observed, you acted with caution and wisdom." Elias allowed himself a small smile. "We try. Sometimes that's the best we can do." The alien seemed to consider that. Then it emitted a soft, harmonic tone, a form of agreement. Elias realized they were acknowledging respect, something that transcended words. As night deepened over the plains, Elias and Sarathel returned to the central platform. The twin moons reflected off the hollow projections, illuminating the network in soft, silver light. The nodes pulsed gently, synchronized with the rhythm of life itself. "I never imagined this," Elias said quietly. "That humans could make such a difference. That just by stopping, listening, and protecting, we could change how the galaxy sees us." Sarathel's eyes gleamed. "Change is not always about action. Sometimes it is about restraint, about choosing the right moment to act. And today, you chose wisely." Elias felt the weight of her words. Humanity had long been measured by its power, its fleets, and its colonies. Yet here, on a remote frontier world, humans had been judged by something deeper, their capacity to understand, to protect, and to act with integrity. The network pulsed brighter, almost as if it recognized their understanding. Elias could see patterns emerging that had never been decoded before, connections that revealed strategies for survival, insights into alien ecosystems, and lessons from generations long past. Humanity now had access to knowledge that could reshape its place in the galaxy. Sarathel turned to him, her crest glowing with a soft light. "Tomorrow, you will begin sharing the knowledge with the wider colonies. You will teach others how to interact with intelligent life. You will prevent mistakes like those that nearly erased my people." Elias nodded, determination settling in his chest. "And we will. Humanity will not forget what we have learned here." Far above, the ships in orbit began to depart. Some left with a newfound respect for humans. Others would carry the lesson back to their civilizations. Elias knew that the story of Kestrel 9 would spread, becoming a symbol of human courage and wisdom. As the plains settled into calm once more, Elias felt a sense of peace he had never known. The network would continue to grow, Sarathel's people would thrive, and humanity had proven that it could act with wisdom and restraint when it mattered most. He looked at the twin moons rising in the night sky. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long. But now, through a simple choice to pause, to listen, and to protect life, humanity had begun to earn its place as a species capable of greatness, not through domination, but through understanding. Elias turned to Sarathel. "You think others will follow our example?" She smiled faintly. "Some will, some may not. But today, humanity has proven something rare. That strength is not in force, but in wisdom, courage, and the willingness to protect life. That lesson will echo far beyond this planet." Elias felt a quiet determination settle in him. There would be challenges ahead. Others might misunderstand, question, or resist. But humanity now had proof of its potential. They could rise above fear, act with understanding, and earn respect across the stars. The network pulsed softly beneath their feet, a heartbeat of memory, survival, and knowledge. Elias and Sarathel stood together, looking over the plains, knowing that life had been preserved, history had been protected, and the galaxy had been shown that humans could act with restraint and courage. And in that moment, Elias understood a simple truth. The universe had underestimated humans, and now, through wisdom, patience, and moral courage, humanity was ready to show its true strength. The plains were quiet, but the hum of life persisted. The twin moons reflected off the glowing nodes of the network. Ships departed, observers carried reports, and yet, on Kestrel 9, one human rancher and one alien guide had changed the course of history through simple acts of understanding. The galaxy had seen humanity's potential, and it would remember. And in the calm under the twin moons, humanity's legacy began anew, not written in conquest, not forged in violence, but in restraint, courage, and the enduring choice to protect what truly mattered. Elias stood tall, looking at the network. A soft breeze stirred the dust at his feet, and for the first time in years he felt certain of one thing. Humanity had earned a place among the stars, not by force, but by the simple, profound act of listening. The galaxy was watching, and humanity was ready.